Today in the press and on the radio, the American career girl, married or single, is a favorite subject for discussion.
Do you feel that some girls have too much talent and ability to waste on a home and children?
Yes, I think many girls do. Some girls have a great deal to offer, and they certainly don't make any contribution to the business world, sitting home with their children or cooking dinner for their husband.
Back then, the Dark Ages, the 1950s, women were told by naysayers how it was impossible to balance a career and a family. These Neanderthal-like concepts have long since been thankfully discarded. As a host of a very successful working women's program will tell you, Oprah, and they are also the people who are laying the groundwork for those who are following in their steps. A new book digging deeper into the issue is The Millionaire Mystique, How Working Women Become Wealthy and You Can Too. It's a pleasure to welcome into MidPoint the author, a veteran of the corporate wars at places such as Honeywell and United Health Group, author of the book, Jude Miller Burke joins us today. Jude, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me join you, Ed.
Jude, I thought we were all past this in a lot of this 1950s thinking, because if you'll talk to some people, they'll say, come on, that's ancient history now. Women are aware of what it takes, and they are aware that they can both be career women and they can be successful. So why is it that you felt the need to make sure that you push this forward about making sure that you can join that elusive millionaires club?
I actually thought we were past a lot of these issues, similar to what you're saying. And I had moved from Minneapolis, a rural area in Minneapolis, down to a wealthy suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. And over a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, I would meet all of these very successful women and men, and they would tell me their stories about growing up in poverty, enduring child abuse, having alcoholic parents, and it seemed very similar to the national norms in those ways. But these people had overcome. They were very ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. And I thought, America needs this message right now. We need to learn from all of these women and men to become as successful as possible because of the economy right now. Well, and that's what encouraged me to do the research and write the book.
You just touched on it. I was going to ask you, what is it that drove this and why do we need this now? You mentioned the economy, but is that the only reason?
Well, I'm a psychologist and I'm an executive coach, and so I'm naturally very curious about how people become who they are as adults. And so I designed a research study with Dr. Mark Attridge. It's a scientific research study, and we studied a couple hundred female and male millionaires. My publisher suggested, Nicholas Brealey, that I do the book on women. And what I found was astounding, that 35% of these very successful women in large corporations still say they're experiencing sexism today, and they have great advice. Interestingly enough, too, the male millionaires and multimillionaires, average age of all these people was about 57. The men also said that becoming financially and professionally successful for women is much more difficult for men. The men and the women also said that being a leader for a woman is much more difficult for her than for a man. And they gave very many specifics as to why that's the case. So I learned a ton, and in my book, I have a lot of self-assessments on things like how to leave your family behind in terms of characteristics you did not like, and take those positive qualities from your family forward into your career. What kind of work style leads to success? What kind of leadership style makes the organization move forward more quickly? How to become more resilient. So it's really very much a how-to book. And my hope is that it will inspire a lot of people and give them some direction. As I was growing up, I kind of bumbled along, being from rural Minnesota, and just kept pursuing one degree after another and one job after another, and basically got lucky. And I wish I would have had someone that would have provided more guidance. Now, I got great qualities from my parents in terms of industriousness and conscientiousness, but I wanted to give this information and this wisdom for myself and all these other people that I surveyed and interviewed to other people.
Well, Jude, let's look at it this way. When you talk about the fact that there's still prejudice, there's still discrimination here, you have somebody like Marissa Mayer, who is the president and CEO of Yahoo. Why is it that we sit here at 2014 when we still have women who are not taken seriously, who are not looked as leaders? You've touched on all this. What is keeping us from finally getting there to understand that a woman executive is just as good, sometimes even better than the guy?
I think we're socialized from a very early age. And of course, I've been immersed in the social science research the last few years as I've been doing my own research and writing this book. And you know, these stereotypes that we have and our socialization is ingrained at a very early age. And let me give you an example of that. One of the things that really surprised me is that when I asked the women that I was interviewing, are you comfortable arguing a point to closure? Over 50% of these women said yes. Now that's a very important thing to do in the workplace, because as you move up in the chain of management, problems rise up. I mean, that's your job to deal with more and more problems. And many of the men said the same thing. But that still leaves over half or almost half of the women who are not comfortable arguing a point to closure. And that's the socialization. Let me mention too, for myself, I had my children very late in life. I was 40 years old and I was vice president of Optum operations at United Health Group. We were building a subsidiary. And I myself felt very torn. I had 3 babies pretty quickly. I had 3 babies 2 years and under because I had twins. And I felt very torn about my career. And I think that our socialization runs very deep about wanting to provide our children and our family with whatever we can. And it's not really possible to do it completely, both things completely.
Okay.
It really requires some integration.
I got about a minute left here, unfortunately, so I know you have a lot of tips here for the Millionaire Mystique, how to become wealthy, how they can too. Very short time. One specific thing, the most important thing that women need to know in order to succeed like this.
To acknowledge that it's very possible. And if I can do it, you can do it. It requires conscientiousness and perseverance and knowing that failure is a part of success.
And also not taking no for an answer. How's that? It works for men and women as well when you're trying to climb up the corporate ladder. How's that go?
That's perfect. I totally agree with that. Don't take no for an answer. Just keep on going.
There you go. I like that. The book, once again, is The Millionaire Mystique, How Working Women Become Wealthy and How You Can Too. It's a fascinating read with so many different ideas. Jude Miller Burke is the author and our guest. Jude, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with the book. I hope we have a chance to talk again soon.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Later on this hour, the simple and factual reasons why one village on the Turkish border must not be allowed to fall into the hands of ISIS. And after the break, just in time for the midterms, another shoe dropping right on the head of Obamacare consumers, just when you thought it was safe to go back into health care. That and much more coming up right here on MidPoint.